Hi there, welcome to my channel. If you are here, I think you are either an AI engineer or an AI scientist or a data scientist, or you want to become one. So Linux forms a fundamental part of all IT systems and all engineering things that we do in AI and data science and data engineering. So you are really welcome in this channel. What I'll be showing you in this video is a Hackerrank challenge solved for you, but there are a number of things that I will be showing you. Number one, what I'll be showing you is how to get Windows PowerShell installed on a Mac machine. You might have an interview coming up with a company that is Windows based and you've got a Mac machine. How do you sharpen those tools? Number two, I'll show you how to tackle this Hackerrank problem on a Mac machine. And number three, I'll show you how to tackle this problem on a Windows machine. So feel free to fast forward to your favorite part, but I would really encourage you to stay on and understand the ins and outs of setting up the environment for you to do some bash scripting. You don't know what company you're going to be working for, and you don't know what company you will be interviewing with. So it's really good to have that high-level understanding of how bash scripting works in Windows machines and on Mac. So let's hit the road with this one. What I've got here is a side-by-side view of a Mac terminal in red on the left-hand side and a Windows PowerShell on the right-hand side in blue. So Mac in red and Windows in blue. We love Windows blue, don't we? Okay, so what I want you to understand first is that Mac terminals really normally end with a %sign. That's when you write your command. For example, I can write clear. There is nothing to clear on my screen, but I can write it there right after the %sign. But if you see this greater than sign, it should probably tell you that, hey, this is a PowerShell or a Windows-based writing of commands. So if I go back to my Mac terminal in red, and if I write pwd, present working directory, or print working directory, it will show you that I am inside an external hard in my volumes, that's the name of my external hard, and I am inside a directory called YouTube. If I do the same on a Windows machine and get printing the working directory, you will see that the path is, again, the same path. So both of them are looking inside the same path. Let me quickly clear this screen and clear this screen. Now you may ask, hey Amir, I know how to get a terminal on my Mac machine. How did you get the Windows PowerShell on your machine? That is pretty simple. So you know that for a lot of the packages in Mac, we use Homebrew. You can use Homebrew command to install Windows PowerShell on your Mac machine. I will quickly show you what that code is. So you want to go ahead and say brew. That's how you use Homebrew. And let me just extend my Mac terminal a bit so that you can see the whole command. Space install --cask and then PowerShell. If you run this command, you will have PowerShell installed on your machine. But remember, you first need to have Homebrew installed on your Mac, because if you don't have Brew installed, you're not going to be able to use it to install other packages. If I check if Brew is installed, you will see that I've got this Homebrew installed on my machine. So I can easily go and say brew install --cask and PowerShell. Yep, it says that PowerShell is already installed. So no upgrading PowerShell, the latest version is already installed. So now that I have got PowerShell installed, let me clear my screen because I want you to be able to see when PowerShell starts inside a terminal. That %sign tells me that I am in a Mac terminal environment, not Windows PowerShell inside my Mac. If I want to start PowerShell, I'll go pwsh and I can show you the version. You can see that PowerShell 7.4.5 is installed on my machine. Now that I want to start a Windows PowerShell, I want your attention. You will see that this %sign will change to that greater than sign when I start PowerShell. I'll go ahead and press enter. Now you will see that starting from this line, I am in a different environment as to where I was before. This was a Mac terminal command, and now this one is inside Windows PowerShell. So that's how I started this other window, and I changed my environment from a Mac terminal into a Windows PowerShell. So what I will do, I will just exit the Windows PowerShell. I'll go back to my Mac terminal because I want the red to be my Mac terminal and I want the blue to be my Windows PowerShell. Let me clear the screen over here. Again, make them the same size. And let's talk about the problem that Hackerrank wants us to solve. This problem is called getting started with conditionals. 97.6% of people have got it right. we will get it right too. Let's go ahead and press solve challenge. Read in one character from the input. So we will be reading one character. Remember that. If the user gives me more than one character, I can still take it, but I don't care about it. I will not really do anything about it. I only care about the first character, and that needs to be implemented in your code. If the character is capital Y or small y, you display yes in capitals. And if the character is N in capital or small, you print no in capital letters. No other character will be provided as input. So the input format is one character, so you only get one character. And the input will be either small y, small n, or capital N. As a sample input, if you give the program a small y, you are expecting to print yes in capitals. Let's see how do we solve this one first in Mac, then in Windows. So let's start with Mac. I'm just going to show you how to do this in a Mac terminal, and then I'll jump to Windows-based solution. But if you haven't seen my videos on previous bash scripting, go ahead and have a look at them. They will really help you build the fundamentals of bash scripting. So let's start with a nano, which is our text editor. Here I will give it a name for my file. I'll say 7.conditionals. With bash scripting for Mac terminal, we use the .sh extension, and that's very important because in Windows that is different. So this is the name of the file that I am creating, where I will be pasting my code. I'll press enter, and now I am inside the editor. This is quite important to understand that this is like your notepad, and this is where you write your code, save it, and then execute it. The code I will be writing, I have been asked to read only one character. So I will use the read command. And for me to be able to say, hey, I don't care what the user gives me, I will only care about the first character. So that's the code I have on the screen. Read -n and 1, which tells the terminal I will only care about one character. Then I will give that character coming from the user a name. Any name will work. Maybe I will call it char for a character. Then I just want to make sure after the user provides me the input, I print an extra line of space. I can show you what happens if I don't do this. So let me get rid of that. Once I will show you how bad it is, I'll come back. I will add an echo line there. But for now, let's do a bad thing. Let's not add that echo line there. I'll show you the impact and I'll come back. All right. The user gives me a character, or they give me more than one character, but I only care about the first one. Now let's write a conditional. A conditional in Linux and in bash scripting starts with an if statement. So in an if statement, I want to say, if the character that the user has provided, which is this one, equals y in capitals, and remember that I have to account for small y and a capital Y, or, which we show with two vertical lines, the character that the user has given me, which is again $ character, equals a small y this time. So this is the first condition. Then you put a semicolon and you provide then. Okay, what do you want the program to do then? So let's press tab and go forward just for readability. I want you to print yes. So if this happens, you do this. Now, the next one will be an elif, because I want to say, okay, if that didn't happen and the user gives me, now I'm going down the route of the no, which will be if the user gives me a capital N, or if the user gives me a small n, then what I want you to do, so you go ahead and say then, press tab just for readability. I want you to print no in cap. Now that I want to close this if statement, it's a funny one, I will write fi. So I will start it with if to make it an opening, and I will close it with fi to make it a closing. Now, I think my code is ready. I'm just going to go ahead and press Control X, which allows me to say, do I want to save this or do I not want to save this? I want to save it. Okay, I'll press Y. And now that has saved, I will press Enter to exit that nano. So this .sh file is written, and now I can execute it. So I will press /7.conditionals.sh, and I think I have typed it correctly. Let's press Enter. Now you can see that the cursor is waiting for me to provide an input. I will press the small y, and you will see that I have provided small y, and the answer is capital yes, which is correct. But you remember how I talked about that extra line of echo? That would be really handy because I want the user to provide the input and I want the yes to be printed in the next line. So let's go ahead and nano again. I have nanoed again and I have opened my text editor. All I want to do is to go after this first line, press enter, and just echo, which is print an empty line. I will go Control X and I will press Y to say that yes, I want to save this, and I will press enter. Let's execute the same code again, and I will press Y, and you will see that this one nicely prints the yes in the next line. Let's see if it works for the no. I will execute it again, and I will press capital N, and you will see that the answer is no. So we have solved this one in a Mac terminal. How do we solve this in a Windows PowerShell? Let me show it to you. Okay, now on Windows, we will do pretty much the same, but there is one thing that is very important. I cannot run a Mac terminal file. I cannot execute a Mac terminal file inside a Windows PowerShell. So I have to make a new one. I will call it .7pwsh_conditionals.ps1. And ps1 is the extension for PowerShell. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to run it on a Windows PowerShell. So if I press enter, now I can write the code for a Windows PowerShell appropriate execution rather than a Mac terminal. So I am going to be receiving a character from the user, which I will need to use the host of the UI for Windows PowerShell. And I will use the raw UI extension within there, and I will read a key that comes from the user. For me to be able to properly show this, I will say no echo and include key down, and that will allow me to then accept a character. So that's line number one. You can see that Windows PowerShell is a bit longer. Now that I have received a character from the user, I will write my if statements. My if statements have the same logic, but the syntax, the way you write it is different from a Mac terminal. So I will ask to check if the character is equal to, and that's how we write it. We don't write two equal signs. We use -EQ, and we use a single quotation for capital Y, and then or is also written differently to Mac, which again, I will write it like or. This character that comes from the user equals a small y, and close that single quotation. For me to be able to go ahead with the then, I will use curly brackets, and I will just give it a tab, and I will ask to write host capital yes. This is the yes part. I will have to close that curly bracket. And now for the second part, I will do pretty much the same. So else you need to check if character that the user has given me equals capital N, or if that character equals a small n, then what you need to do is press tab again and make this another write host, which will print capital no. Now I can close that curly bracket, which I will indent it so that you understand this one is closing that curly bracket. And now I need to close the other curly bracket. So let me just see if I did the indentation right. It looks okay to me. I will go ahead and press Control X. I'm being asked, do I want to save this? I will say yes by pressing Y and press enter again. Now that I want to execute this, all I need to do is to go ./7.pwsh_conditionals.ps1. If I run this, now I'm being asked to either press yes or no. So I will press Y, and you will see that the answer is yes. And if I execute it again, if I press no, you will see that the answer is no. But the fun bit, or probably the tricky bit, is that you don't see what I have pressed. You only see the answer. I could go ahead and edit my code in such a way that you will see the user input and then the program's response. I'm not going to really bother with that. I'll leave you to it. If you don't know how to do it, leave me a comment and I'll show you how to do that. But now I can tell you that this code from Windows PowerShell is not going to work on Hackerrank platform. Let me copy it and show it to you. The reason it's not going to work on Hackerrank is that this one uses a bash language. So if I print it here and run the code, you will see that it's not gonna compile. This is a bash scripting language here, and I can't compile that code, which is based out of Windows PowerShell. But if I go back and copy the one from Mac terminal, you will see that it will compile. Let me show it to you. Okay, so I will exit from here, and that's not gonna work. Let's go to my Mac terminal and nano 7.conditionals. This one was the one with SH extension, and I will copy this one this time. And when I paste it here and run the code, fingers crossed it will run. It didn't run because of this extra echo. You can see that there is the output is an empty line and a yes. The expected output, we don't want that extra echo. So let's get rid of that echo there and run the code again. And hopefully this one, it will run successfully. So if I submit the code, you will see that all test cases are successful, and I'm so happy that I was able to help you with this one. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel, share these videos with your friends, and leave me a comment if you have any questions or if there are more videos you want to see. Thank you.